Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode reading breakdown of the Book of Boba Fett on Disney+. Today we're talking episode 2, which is so good. I mean, episode 1 I enjoyed, but at the same time it felt really underwhelming. Like there was no big surprise, really no big setup in that episode. But this one, we get a lot. We get a lot in this episode of the Book of Boba Fett, and we have a lot to talk about here. So, of course, before we get into this, quick spoiler warning. If you've not yet seen the episode, the Book of Boba Fett, episode 2 on Disney+, you have now been warned. So, let's get into this. The episode begins with Fennec Shand bringing the prisoner that she was chasing after at the end of last week's episode. And, of course, he won't talk, so I love how they drop him down into the pit to be eaten by the Rancor. But what's weird, though, is that the Rancor is not there, but, of course, he still ends up talking anyway just because of the threat. But I'm interested in finding out, if the Rancor still is there. Is it dead, or is it, not there anymore? I hope we find out more about that, because the Rancor was always super cool, but he admits that the mayor is the one that sent him. So of course they go to visit the mayor and full on confront him, and instead of he kind of admits it, but at the same time doesn't, and he goes on about this whole thing and says thank you for bringing him in, he's a wanted criminal and all this stuff, and then he gives him a reward with some money and stuff like that. And then Boba Fett, of course, says, I'm not a bounty hunter, which, he used to be, but I guess retired from that or something like that. So then the mayor, his real name is Mok Shiaz, he says, running a family is more complicated than bounty hunting. And that is his little tribute he gives to Lord Fett, which is really interesting. And it was also kind of a disturbing scene, because this guy's just really weird. I'm assuming he's going to be playing a bigger role in the series. I theorized last week that he could be the main villain of it. Maybe, I don't know. He definitely doesn't seem like the most trustworthy guy. But, hey, we'll have to wait and see, because then after this, our Boba squad, they head over to the cantina once again, but it's interrupted when they hear something outside. So they go outside, and they see the arrival of a new Hutt. The Jabba the Hutt's cousin has arrived, and this was such a cool moment, because, of course, Jabba the Hutt is such an integral character to Boba's history, because, that was when Boba was first introduced, he was working for Jabba the Hutt. And so now we have a new Hutt arriving here, the cousin of Jabba, and he arrives along with a lady Hutt. I don't know if that's his sister or his girlfriend, his wife. I don't know. The relationship could be multiple choice. We'll have to wait and see if we even get an answer to that. But then also a Wookiee gladiator, which was really cool as well. And basically they want the land here, and they're like, oh, Jabba owns this land, and, my cousin, all this stuff. And so they threaten Boba Fett, and then they're off, and they take off in their little, they're being carried around in their little chairs, which, hey, by the way, those boards holding them up, those chairs that they're being carried around on, those gotta be some strong chairs, because, one Hutt is enough, but two of them, whoa, that's a big deal. But this is actually where we end off the present day stuff for the episode, in episode 2, which I thought was kind of weird. It was kind of an abrupt ending, but the rest of the episode is so good, because then we transition back to Boba Fett in the Bacta tank, back to the flashback, continuing the story from last week's episode, and it's so good. It's more of a self-contained story in this episode, but I like it so much because there's so much going on. Because at first, Boba Fett is kind of just hanging out with the Tusken Raiders. They're training and sparring together, when all of a sudden a train comes along and starts shooting them, leaving a bunch of casualties among the Tusken Raiders. So they burn the bodies and are mourning the losses. So Boba says, I'm going to head off and I'm going to stop the train. So he goes off on his own. He walks up to this place where you've got some sort of gang there, and he beats them up, which was a pretty cool fight scene, and steals their land speeders. So then he takes them back to the Tusken Raiders and teaches them how to use them. And I love how we have this kind of Tusken Raider language. It's like a Tusken sign language. I think that's pretty cool, especially after just watching Hawkeye on Disney+, where you had communication with the character of Maya Lopez through ASL as well. I thought that was really cool. Sign language is a really cool thing. I'd love to learn it. But anyway, like I said, Boba teaches them how to use the land speeder. So this time when the train comes around, they're able to stop it. They chase it down, they infiltrate, they beat up a bunch of the train gang, and they stop it, and then they create some new terms with these people. They kind of find out a reason. They're like, we thought the Tuskens were uncivilized people, so we were just protecting a route and all this stuff. And basically the day is saved there, and they head off on their way to town. And now they're under the protection of the Tusken Raiders, which, I mean, pretty nice of the Tuskens after they just, killed like all of them. But after this, the Tusken ruler gives Boba a lizard, which jumps in his nose, which was something I was not at all expecting. It was, like, super disgusting. But yeah, it jumps up his nose, and it says that this lizard will guide him. So then he's, like, suddenly tangled in a tree, reliving moments of his life, and I was super confused at this point. I didn't know if it was like a dream or a vision he was having, but later we find out that he was like actually in a tree, and he was like no longer at the Tusken campsite. So yeah, he like gets out of the tree, he just relived a bunch of moments, and now he has a branch from this tree. So he brings that back to the Tusken Raiders, and he then receives a black cloth cloak outfit, very similar, and actually I think the same exact one we saw him wear when he was first introduced in The Mandalorian Season 2. And now that branch that he brought back from that tree that he was tangled in is now being turned into his stick staff weapon that we also saw him use in The Mandalorian Season 2 as well, and that we see him use in present day. And then the episode ends with them all doing a kind of cool, fun, tribal, ritual dance thing, which I thought was pretty cool, just showing like the camaraderie between all of them. I think that's pretty cool that Boba's kind of been accepted as one of their own. That's really interesting and not something I was expecting to see this season, but it's happening and I like it. And I thought this was, again, a great episode. Huge improvement from last week's episode. Still not perfect though, because again, of course, like they did kind of end it off abruptly with the present day stuff, and I'm still not even sure where exactly they're going with that, because there really hasn't been any huge setups with the episodes here going forward. But we do have 6 episodes left, which should take us to next month. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really enjoying this series so far. I'm really enjoying seeing this new side of Boba Fett, where before we pretty much knew him as just like this fearless, brutal bounty hunter and everything. And now he's kind of got a kinder side, which, I mean, also isn't great at the same time. I'd really like to see the brutal side. We do see that come through at certain points. But yeah, I'm really enjoying the Book of Boba Fett. I'm excited for episode 3 next week, so stay tuned for my episode review and breakdown for that. But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about the Book of Boba Fett episode 2, and are you excited for episode 3? Let me know all your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments below. And of course, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I keep you up to date on everything goes on in the Star Wars life.